one of the ways you collect data is almost like you're reporting on these people. Like you're collecting real life interactions between people and real life characteristics, and then you incorporate them into fiction.
Exactly.
That's fair to say?
My degree is journalism. I have no idea how to be with people, so I need to introduce a topic and see if it resonates, and then get everybody's take on these common experiences, and then pick the very best one. So in a way, basically what I'm doing is kind of an ongoing field study that becomes whatever my next book is.
Like go to parties with like a couple like bullets in the chamber?
Sometimes I just go to the party and I listen to hear somebody tell that personal anecdote that does evoke all those other anecdotes. Because a great anecdote doesn't leave people speechless. It leaves them competing to tell a better version of the same thing. I'm delving into the deep recesses, if I'm lucky, if I'm doing it right, of your mind, of something that they'll, like comedians, they'll say, oh my gosh, that happened to you too. And a lot of times there are things that people have never, ever talked about. I tell a classic anecdote. After I had read the gut story at an event, a woman came up, and she was a middle-aged woman. She was about my age. And she said, I really love that you read that story about how you got your anus prolapsed while masturbating in a swimming pool, which is not my story, but I'm the one that read it. So that's the one, I'm the one that they're picturing in this horrendous situation. And she says, since you can tell that story, I want to tell you a story. And she said how when she was 7 years old, she was in second grade, and she was in a little organization called the Brownies, which is a precursor to the Girl Scouts. You wear a brown dress, little brown hat, you get these little merit badges. And she said, one day I had a stomach ache, and my mom kept me home from school. And we had this heating pad. It must have been in the 1960s. And this heating pad had this vibrating function. And she put me face down on this heating pad on my stomach. And I fell asleep. And while I was asleep, this vibrating, warm heating pad must have slid down between my legs. She says, because I woke up with the most amazing feeling. A feeling like I'd never felt before. Oh my God, it felt so good. And so next time it was my turn to host the Brownies, I said, Brownies, you've got to try this heating pad. And she says, all the Brownies, they turned the heating pad on, the vibrating heating pad, and they rode it like a pony all afternoon. And she said it was like Sex in the City for 7-year-old girls. They could not get enough of this heating pad. And they were all riding this heating pad, and they had a great time. And she said, and for the first time in my life, I was the most popular girl in my class. And I was the girl that all the girls wanted to play with. And for every Brownie troop meeting, it was at my house. And I was the leader until the day that my mother came home from work early. And she caught us with a heating pad. And she sent the other Brownies home. And she whipped the cord out of the wall. She just ripped it out of the socket. And she started to beat me with it. And she beat me with that cord. And she beat me. And she said, you fucking piece of shit. You dirty whore. What kind of a fucking whore am I raising? You whore. And she beat me and she beat me. And she says, this woman who's my age now, she says, I have not had an orgasm since I was 7 years old. And then she goes, but if you can tell that swimming pool story about how you got hurt, jacking off underwater, she says, I can tell my heating pad story. And I can tell that story until I can make it funny. And then maybe someday I can go back to my mom and I can say, do you remember that heating pad we used to have? And it'll be complete.
Holy shit.
And so see, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create the opening for people to tell these stories that they never thought that they could tell, because that's the way in which they're going to resolve these stories, and they're going to master these stories.
We have these bidet toilet things that have a little button on the wall. You press it, it shoots hot water up your ass. And my kids come over, and they love these toilets. I have 2 daughters. And my youngest, when she was 7, she would sit on the toilet, and she was laughing and giggling, and we didn't tell her there's anything wrong with it. So she was telling us how much she loves it, how much she loves the hot water when it shoots onto her butt. She's like, it feels so good, and there was no shame in it. And there was this weird moment where I'm like, am I supposed to react to this? Am I supposed to say, yeah, I know, I like it too? Am I supposed to say, hey, don't do that too much? Am I supposed to say, don't tell anybody you like that? You can like it, but don't tell anybody you like it. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I didn't do anything. I just let her smile, and she walked out of the bathroom laughing like it was great. And there was no issue. But it was this moment where I was like, wow, if I was a religious person or a suppressive person or some person with some sexual issues, this could be a real problem for this little girl. Instead, I was like, okay, let's get out of the bathroom now. I guess you're done. Alrighty. And she has no idea that this was even like a moment of, crisis in my mind, where I was like, okay, how do I handle this? I'm in the bathroom with my 7-year-old daughter. She's getting water shot up her ass, and she's enjoying it.
So you talk about it on the radio? Is that how you deal with it?
I enjoy it too.
Sure.
I enjoy it too. We all do. We talk about these toilets. They're amazing. It's warm water. It shoots in your... It's great. It feels awesome. But it's not supposed to feel awesome for like a little girl for some reason, right?
See, you tell that story, and people will have so many versions of that story.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I was in Germany. I went in the bathroom in the airport. I didn't know what this button was, so I pressed it. I looked down just in time to see this little plastic arm swing out. I didn't know what that thing was going to do. So I jumped off the head, and this thing shot up with such force, it knocked a ceiling panel out of the ceiling. And all this hot toilet water came sprinkling down on me.
Oh.
And that's the only time I've ever been around one of those.
Well, we have one here if you want to try it out.
I don't know. It scares me.
There's 2 of them. There's one in that bathroom, one in that one. One of that bathroom you could lock. It's private.
And see, that's my process, is you tell these stories, and you kind of gather the stories that people tell related to these stories, and you choose the ones that escalate the fastest, that escalate the best. And that gives you a gradual sort of, you've established the precedent, and then something worse, escalating worse, escalating worse, escalating to the most atrocious or extreme version. And that's what brings the story to crisis.